Welcome back to Sunrise. Peter Dutton has walked back plans to axe working from home for public servants after some candidates reported significant voter hostility towards the policy in key electorates. After previously saying all public servants would be expected to work from the office 5 days a week, the coalition now says they have listened to the backlash and that current flexible arrangements won't be changed. For their take, let's bring in Environment Minister Tanya Plibersek and Nationals MP Barnaby Joyce. Good morning. Barnaby, this is a pretty major reversal. It particularly affects women. There must have been a lot of backlash.
Well, I think the sensible thing, if it's not working, is to change. I mean, that's what you should do. That's what people want to see in a leader. Not that they obstinately stick to something. And yes, obviously there was people pretty upset. Vicky was pretty upset because she works from home. But the sin would have been to stick with it. Say, no, I'm too proud. I'm not going to change. You want to have people who listen to what's happening out there in the public and go, OK, get it, as opposed to what the Labor Party's doing with intermittent power, where they just ignore them.
So, Tanya, is this a sign of a modern politician, listening to the electorate and thinking, OK, people don't like this, we thought it was a good idea, but now we're changing straight away?
Well, it just shows that Peter Dutton's loose and he makes it up as he goes along. And that's the last thing you want in a leader at a time when we've got some global uncertainty. I mean, he's part of a cabinet that sells the Port of Darwin. Now he wants to buy it back. He voted against a cap on student numbers. Now he wants a cap on student numbers. He's changed his policies on public service and working from home. But probably the biggest backflip is when he's health minister, he cuts Medicare. He says there's too many bulk billed visits to doctors, wants to push up the price of medicines, and now he expects people to believe that he's had a change of heart and that he's a true believer on Medicare. No one's buying it. And he looks loose and he's making it up as he's going along. And I don't think anybody wants that in a Prime Minister.
OK, let's move on. I want to get to this one. A 7 News Spotlight investigation has revealed the dark side of the electric vehicle boom, uncovering the major environmental damage that comes from mining dirty nickel in Chinese-owned mines, which is the main component, of course, in EV batteries. The investigation also uncovered deadly working conditions for those inside those mines. Tanya, your government has been pushing hard for the uptake of electric vehicles. Does this make you rethink your position?
Well, it makes me think, and I'm sure the government, everyone in the government agrees that we should make more here and mine more here. We've got a previous government that goaded the Australian car industry into leaving. We've got our Future Made in Australia policies, which provide a production tax credit to mine more nickel here in Australia that the Liberals and Nationals opposed. And if you're worried about, dirt and pollution in the atmosphere, the Liberals and Nationals in energy policy would see 2 billion extra tonnes of carbon dioxide pollution going into our atmosphere. So I of course, am always concerned about environmental and labour standards. As a Labor Party, we work very closely with union movements around the world to make sure that we've got good labour and environmental standards, not just in Australia but internationally.
How closely are you working with Indonesia? They're not only undercutting our industry and sending our nickel industry broke. Did you see how filthy it is? People are dying in those mines, and you're the Environment Minister.
And we agree that there should be. It's truly shocking, and there should be better standards internationally, and that's why we work so hard through our trade agreements and bilateral arrangements with other countries to improve standards. But I'll tell you this, Nat, we would be making more here and mining more here if we had a coalition government that hadn't got rid of the Australian car industry and refuses to back the nickel industry in Australia, refuses to work for production tax credits here for we need more production here in Australia, and the way to do that is for the Liberals and Nationals to get on board with the production tax credit for nickel and for Future Made in Australia to make batteries here. We've got everything we need in Australia to have a great domestic battery industry.
Should we rip up the Memorandum of Understanding with Indonesia?
We should continue to work with partners all around the world to improve labour and environmental standards, and that's why we sign up to international agreements that have high labour and environmental standards, and we urge other countries to do the same. well, we need to do whatever we can to improve international standards.
It's
and I think
been called
there's
the
no
dirty
question
nickel
that
secret.
the
Have you
nickel
seen what's
industry.
happening?
Yeah, I think it's shocking. I agree.
So what
and
do we
that's
do?
why we should be mining more in Australia and making more components here in
Stop the
Australia
mines.
and making batteries in Australia. And that's why we want to invest in that. And the Liberals and the Nationals have opposed that.
Okay, we can see what's happening. So now what do we... OK, Barnaby, let's go to you. What would you do after seeing that last night?
It's the typical, the great swindle of the third revelation. How many times have I been coming on this show and saying to people, this is a huge swindle? You've got to realise it. You've got to realise what's happening. This so apparently is good for the environment. It's disgusting for the environment. And just to go back and say, well, you got rid of the car industry. Never once did Tanya say, hang on, Tanya, you've got to let me speak. You spoke for about 5 minutes and it didn't work. It's absolutely hurting people. And if you go behind it, the solar panels, she's shown slave labour in China. And if you go to the cobalt, poor kids down mines in Angola, and we say it's okay, and then we come over here, build all these swindle factories, intermittent power precincts, put up the price of power through the roof. And do you ever think, who is actually making the money out of this? And you've got billionaires who know they've got you on guilt. They've got you on guilt, and they go, well, we've got a ticket to absolutely cream it. So all through this swindle industry, the intermittent power sector, are people being hurt and people being ripped off and landscapes being destroyed, and we've got the Minister for the Environment saying it's A-OK.
Tanya?
Well, I didn't say it was okay. I said we need to do better and we should be making more
exactly
and mining
what
more
would we
here.
do
And it would be
about
really good
Indonesia?
if the coalition supported that.
Are you going to ban the
Instead
cars,
of
Tanya?
Forget the coalition
instead
for a
of the
minute,
coalition
and what would you
car
do
jobs
if you get back
You're going to
in?
ban the cars.
Sure. Well,
Are
I
you
told
gonna
you
ban
what we
the
do.
cars,
We've got
Tanya?
a future made in Australia. We've got a future made in
Tanya,
Australia
are you
that provides
going to
production
ban the
tax
cars?
credits to mine.
Tanya, that's not an answer. That's not an answer.
Okay,
You've
hang on, Barnaby. Just last word, Tanya.
Peter Dutton made a bad decision.
Barnaby, hang on.
The last word is we
Tanya,
should be
last
making
word.
more here and mining more here. We should be
not
making more
answering
here and
it.
mining more here, and the coalition should get on
That is
board
not
with that.
answering. We've just had an example of Peter Dutton making a bad
That is an
decision
answer.
and fixing it up. Now we have exactly the opposite, obstinance,
Okay.
where a really bad thing's happening and you're not going to ban the cars. That's all I got out of everything you said. You're not going to do anything about it.
You've never cared about the environment until it's been
Tanya,
convenient for you to run an argument against renewables, Barnaby. Not once, not ever.
Look, I think we've both heard, you've both had your say on that. It is a fascinating story that all Australians should be concerned about. Here's Shiva.